Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I'm here on the Scoop Studio at Apex 2019 and I'm joined by Ranjan Chatterjee from Cimetrix. Ranjan, thanks for stopping by. So much talk about connectivity at this show. It seems to be kind of one of the key underlining topics. And what always interests me when I talk to you is you've got so much experience of success in this, in the semiconductor industry, and so much knowledge to bring to the SMT market. There are some fundamental differences, but there are similarities as well, aren't there? Tell me a bit about how Cimetrix is approaching this market.
So we have had a lot of experience in connecting in the semiconductor, like you said, and because they are very expensive, machines are expensive, they need to be connected. So it's not an option for them. They need to monitor it because it's the biggest investment and it's so much capital tied up. But for companies that were vertically integrated, who have semiconductor and SMT and PCB, they're less and less nowadays, but they had existed. Cimetrix has worked with them, where we have actually used the same technologies in SMT and integrated like 24 factories, 20,000 SMT machines, almost a decade back, right? So it is equally applicable. The thing is that once you use a standard and it's very well thought out and it works in a very high capital intensive industry, it is easy to do it in scale because it has been debugged. They have invested enormous amount of money to make it work, right? So for some standard to get adopted, you have to have testing and you have to have reference implementations. You have to have a minimal critical mass. Once those things exist, then it would happen. So if you look at the PCB industry, which is probably the least sophisticated and they want to spend the least amount of money, they're a little bit even less investment than even SMT. Yep. They have adopted the semiconductor standard. Which is the GEM standard. And one of the reasons is they looked at everything and they said, instead of trying to figure out what to do, and it could take a while to get adopted, even if it's adopted, it takes a while to get deployed, then what can we do quickly? And they did that. So that's kind of the thing, that it is not very specific. Nowadays, data is data almost, right? So, and the machines are all very similar. They have the similar operating systems that run them. So the heart of the machines are very similar. They all run Windows. Most of them have the similar motion, vision, those kind of requirements.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I look at it, the dynamic of the EMS industry as an example, and obviously right. It's also applicable to OEMs and board shops as well. But if I look at an EMS in tier 1, tier 2, upwards of a dozen factories, as you say, literally thousands of machines, so many different equipment sets, some legacy, some that they're currently investing in. For me, what I'd want is something that gives me the fastest solution right. to digitize my ecosystem, right. But also economic. If I've got 10,000 machines, I don't want it to cost me $1,000 a machine because that's $10 million.
Yes, that's right. I mean, that's the other thing. Some EMSs have 90 factories and each factory may have thousands of machines. So to them, if you're just monitoring one line or or few lines in a few factories, that doesn't give them, like, if you're doing OEE, you want to do it across the board, across all 90 factories, every line, right? If you can't do that, then you don't get the benefits of the thing. You kind of remain in like a prototype purgatory, right? Every time they're doing a proof of concept in one factory, one line, and then they move on to another factory, and then by the time it takes few years, and then they move on to another thing, right? So you kind of...
Yeah, and a lot of people are selling, a lot of these big companies now are selling on manufacturing agility. We have all these challenges with wanting to produce product as close to the consumer as possible, but also the trade and tariffs has made people rethink where they are with their production, and the companies that can move stuff quickly definitely have an advantage in the market. So having that equipment set that is compatible, the ability to move stuff, the ability to benchmark one against the other, that's hugely valuable, not just to them in their internal business, but their ability to work with certain OEMs.
Yes, absolutely. And then you're also seeing that some of the OEMs and EMS guys, they're not doing one thing anymore. So, a semiconductor wafer fab has to do packaging, right? They may not like it, it's a lower margins, but they have to do it because that's part of what their customers are demanding. EMS guys are moving into packaging or OSAT territory. So it needs to be something that works across the supply chain. And so it's not just moving production from one to the other. When you send a wafer, you have to send a wafer map, and that can be handled by an SMT machine.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to kind of handle all of them. In the semiconductor back end, now there is a big struggle where they want to standardize on the material handling systems, not just the communication systems, but the material handling. In semiconductor, when they went from 200 to 300, they went through a huge transition to standardize on the material handling systems, right? That transition is going on in the semiconductor back end, which is morphing into the SMT front end.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's that big connection. And, you know, I guess in summary, I look at what's going on here with the discussion about CFX, about Hermes, about different standards. The bottom line is we need to get stuff connected, we need to get it digitized, we need to stress a little less about standards and just actually get on and find the right solution.
Yeah, something that can be done today, immediately put it together, and then move the discussions to the higher level, like what do you do with the data, right? And how do you actually process it? So you need to collect, you need to analyze, and you need to act. So we need to get to the act part as soon as possible, because if you are at the collect stage and it's taking you months and months, the collect should happen across all 90 factories for a particular EMS, so they can get to the analyze and act as soon as possible.
Yeah, and that's where the real value comes.
Right.
Ranjan, great to see you. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy the last few hours of the show. Thank you.
Thank you.